So you mentioned about your work culture being fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you maybe touch what makes a great work culture?
First thing is like you have to let adults be adults. You don't need to micromanage people. Obviously, when people are not working very well, you tell them that, oh, you need to improve on this.
How do you stay updated with the rapidly changing tech landscape? Hi guys, today we have Israel. He's an Instagram connection and a tech and lifestyle digital creator.
Yeah. Summer, and I'm also a software engineer.
I do is that I'd like to stay not too informational with the guests so I can have a raw reaction when we're speaking.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
So tell me about that. I guess you haven't been born here. So when did you come here? Yeah. Tell me your story.
Where should we start from? I guess I should start from like the first question, which was when I came here. I came here last year, June 15 to be specific, in case immigration is watching. But yeah, I came here last year, June, and I came here just for the job, for the software engineering job. I got a job at a tech company. It's called Asana. I don't know if you've heard of Asana. Oh, interesting. So I got the job and then I moved here for the job, which was mostly that. But what's my story? Where do you want me to start from?
So you're a content creator.
Yeah.
How does that? So I study computer science too, and I'm a content creator in a sense. So it's kind of a big gap. But how did you start maybe creating content?
Yeah, I think let me say that I have like 4 or 5 years ago, I did not like posting online. Like I sometimes I still, when I want to post something, I still remember my friend saying that, oh, put something on WhatsApp story, like WhatsApp status, that kind of thing. I'm like, nah, I don't want to post anything. Well, it's like, oh, you have a lot of things to share. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to post anything. But the whole content creation thing started because I've always been involved with like the whole mentorship thingy, trying to share knowledge, that kind of thing. I also like speak at events, and then I also get a lot of like juniors in school, and let me say that I've done well for myself. So I get a lot of people sort of like getting in my DMs. I'm like, oh, how do I become a software engineer? How do I do this? How do I do that? I'm like, okay. I keep telling people the same thing in the DMs. So I was like, okay, I might as well just start recording something. And then if someone asks me, oh, how do I write a good resume to get a job at Google or something, I'm like, go watch my video, right? That way, I mean, back home, I had more time because I was working remotely. So I had more time, that kind of thing. So I was able to like message everybody. But now that I have to go into the office, so like hybrid, full time, that kind of thing. It's also like, I want to rest, right? So I was like, let me just start creating videos, posting them online, answering questions that people tend to ask me, which is, if you watch if you go to my YouTube and you see a bunch of the videos that I have there, it's mostly questions that people have asked me in my DM, like, oh, how do I get a job? How do I interview? Those kind of things. I'm like, okay, let me record a video for you. You go watch it. If you don't have any other question, then you come ask me, which is really how I started content creation. But also on the other side, it's like, it's a good source of like side income, to be honest, when things start working out. And I think that's very cool to also just like make side income. So mostly to share knowledge, that's how it all started. But now it's also like, it gets me some extra cash. So that's the long short story.
That's awesome. So most people that ask you this stuff, is it based in maybe your home country, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think it's just people. Mostly it used to be people from my home country, like juniors it's like, oh, how do I do this? But now it's because I have a lot of following, I guess. It depends on how you define a lot, right? So I have like 12K on YouTube. So I get people drop on comments, oh, like, how do I get a job, from all around the world. On YouTube, like the demographic is probably mostly Indians. But like on Instagram is mostly Nigerians, which is where I'm from, by the way. So in my message requests, a lot of them is mostly like people from my country. But I also just get random people from different places for the most part, yeah. So it's all around. Also, now that I moved here, when I go for events, I get a lot of people come ask me, oh, how do I get a job at Asana? How do I interview? Review my resume for me, that kind of thing. So now it's not so much of only Nigerians. It's like just people that want help with whatever they think I can help with.
So you're a software engineer and you've done your studies. Can you speak maybe more about that? How was your experience as a software engineer, and kind of maybe dive deeper into that part of the story?
So I did computer engineering in school back in Nigeria. But I'm not exactly sure what you want me to go into when it comes to like software engineering. But for the most part, I started coding like long time ago. Too long, like in secondary school, which you guys don't have here. I think it's called high school, but like the way the schooling system works is like we have secondary school. So in like senior secondary school, I got exposed to like we're doing this subject in school, which is called it's like this program that Cisco had in connection with the federal government of Nigeria, that kind of thing. So they were like teaching us introduction to networking, those kind of things. I've always wanted to be like an electrical engineer, because growing up, I've always liked to like play around with like gadgets and just mix things up. So I thought my calling was going to be like electrical engineer because I like playing with wires and stuff. I thought that was what electrical engineering was about. And then when I got exposed to like computing in secondary school, I was like, oh, I like this, right? So it was mostly because teachers then were going to show us like holograms. So we'd see like videos of like futuristic thing. I'm like, this looks like something that I want to get into. And I was like, what can I do that combines electrical engineering and computer science, and something that had to do with computing? I went to search and they were like, oh, maybe computer engineering. That's why I didn't do like pure computer science in school, because I wanted to like have that combination of engineering and computing. And so I did that. But later I was just like, nah, I'm not going to do anything electrical so much. And also just the way computer engineering was taught in my school wasn't like the best. We're doing mostly like engineering things, like we're doing mechanical engineering courses, we're doing everything from every engineering course you can think of, like material science. We're doing courses from all those things, like up to like 400. So it was like, okay, I'm not gonna do this engineering, like this kind of engineering. So, but I already even started coding. Like in secondary school, I started with like C++, which is an interesting story. I like telling this because it's very interesting. So back then, I started coding on paper, right? C++ on paper, because I was in secondary school and they did not allow us to like have mobile phones in school. So I was going to go to my mom's office then, get my small phone, read. It was like a Nokia C1. If you know what a Nokia C1 is, it's like a very terrible phone. It's only a smartphone, more or less, right? So I was gonna like read that on Opera Mini. I sound old, but it's like just what it is. So read on Opera Mini and then write what I'm learning inside of a book, right? So just write that inside of a book. It wasn't the best way to learn, but it was like, I think I still have the book back home somewhere, but I was just gonna like, oh, int something, start writing that, take that back, try to read that, which was really how I started coding. And then I was doing that until so when I go back home, I had like some of this, there was like this C++ ID, and then I was going to try out what I like after, like during the break on vacation, I was going to try that out. So that was really how I started learning to code, which was a nice story based like now I'm here. But yeah, then I went to school, did computer engineering, and then like year 2 or something. So I was still like doing C++. And then when I got to school, I started doing competitions like Google Hash Code, which I think they've closed now. But I started doing all those like coding competitions more or less. So I was trying to improve my skills through that. I didn't have a computer also, so I was getting by somehow. And then in like year 2, I think that was when I got a computer, like up year 2 second semester. Like I got my own like laptop, that kind of thing. Like I think it was an HP or a Dell. And then I picked up web development, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then I started learning. I still remember one of the first projects that I built when I started learning. It was like my school e-portal. Like I tried, which is one thing that I usually advise people to do. Like if you're learning to code, it's better to be hands-on, right? Try to create things hands-on. People get stuck in what we call like tutorial hell, which is why for the most part, on my YouTube channel, I'm not going to like, you're not going to see me teaching HTML or CSS or JavaScript or something like that. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not probably gonna go like so many tutorials like that. But for the most part, I started like trying what I was doing hands-on. Hope I'm not talking too much. But like I started trying hands-on what I was doing, like tried reproducing some site, Google homepage, my school e-portal page, like just trying to reproduce all those. And then like second semester, like first semester, 300 level, without knowing too much, I started applying for jobs, like mostly internships to like big companies like Google, Microsoft. I was always interested in Microsoft. Like Microsoft was one of those things that really drew me to computing. Like back when I was in school, which was also one of the reasons why I did computer engineering, because I was like, oh, Microsoft was into hardware. Then so I was like, well, okay, let's do like Windows PC, those kind of things. So I started doing all those, and that's how I got into software engineering. I started applying for jobs, working on projects, started freelancing, using WordPress to like build things for people. And then fast forward, still applying, got interviews with Google for an internship, like my 300 level, which was like a very huge thing for me. So that was like, yeah, I can make it in life. Right. And then 500 level, because it's like a 5-year course that I studied. I was still applying for jobs during that time. COVID happened. I was freelancing, working for some agency. I was working for some startup like during that time. And then 500 level, skipped a lot of story, but 500 level, I like when I was doing like about to finish school, I got interviews and then got like job offers from 3 companies: Amazon, Yelp, and Asana. Yeah, right. So Amazon was in UK, Yelp was also in the UK, and Asana was in Canada. But I preferred Canada more, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pick Asana in Canada, and I'm glad I did that because I'm not sure what Yelp culture is like, but Yelp Asana culture is like. Not because I worked there, but I can say that it's actually a very good one. Like some very nice people. Yelp, I don't know so much about it, but Amazon, you probably heard about Amazon work culture. It's like, okay. So yeah, I got a job there and then moved here for the job, and that's that about. It's a long story, but
Now you're here.
Now I'm here. 1 year, 6 months-ish, more or less, yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for the amount of support you guys are giving this podcast. None of this would be possible without you guys. And if you guys like the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out, and it's completely free for you guys. If you want to support this podcast directly, please check out the Patreon link down below. It will help me directly, and it will help me bring higher levels of guests and improve the studio and really deliver the best content. And also over there, we have some unreleased content, podcast. I've interviewed 2 people at the same time, and there's more content there with people from Toronto that I cannot be in person with. I do over the Zoom, and all the content's there. So please make sure to check it out. And thank you guys for watching. That's awesome. So can you say maybe the biggest differences of life here rather than in Nigeria, in a sense?
Generally, what I say is that their systems work, right? There are things that work and they work, right? You say you drive on the road and then people follow the rules, right? In Nigeria, if you're driving, you have to pastors in churches and imams in churches are like, oh, Lagos traffic is going to test your patience. Like whether you really, because you're like, somebody's going to want to eat you from the back. Nobody's following any rules. It's like, you just have to have eyes all around your head. Because they're also there are also a lot of motorcycles that are also driving. So you might be trying to go like this, and motorcycles are always in your blind spot for the most part, and before you know there's a motorcycle, so nobody follows any rules, so you just have to do that. And also systems work generally, I think is that the all the things are becoming expensive in in Canada, especially Vancouver. Rent is crazy, but I think standard of living generally is a tad bit better than back home. But I would say that the problem we have in Nigeria is mostly that there's a lot of corruption, right? Most of the leaders take money and they don't give back. They don't do anything for the constituents, the people that elected them, which is one of the things that we're currently struggling with. But when it comes to the people, some of the smartest people around the world, I would say, because if you check statistics of the people that lead in schools in the States, like some of these Ivy League schools, like they have like their background from Nigeria, and some of like some very huge startups, or some very, do you know Calendly? I don't know if
Yeah.
it was started by a Nigerian. So we have like some very like great, awesome people from Nigeria, but the leaders are like, so the leaders are like this, but we have like some very resilient people. I'm one of them. Like some people, but like some very smart people from back home. So, but yeah, what is different? Things work, systems work. The weather is different, obviously. We don't have like winter and all those things. And also, what is different? It's more communal. I think I should say that Nigeria is more communal, like community. There are a lot of people, it's a community more or less, is what I would say. Like everybody, if you're living somewhere, everybody knows everybody talks to everybody. There's this like respect culture and this community culture, which we don't have, at least in Vancouver, we don't have it. I've heard that in Toronto, it's better. Exactly. But in Vancouver, nobody talks to anybody. Like everybody's just,
It's sad.
it's sad.
I've had many episodes and we've brought this up, and I would love it to be more community based, and that's what we're trying to do maybe with this podcast as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how long have you lived here?
Lived
or were
here,
you born here?
No, I lived here for over 10 years.
Okay. Where are you from?
Iran.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I met someone that is from Iran also. She was like, oh yeah, it's very nice. You guys like to share your culture, that kind of thing.
100%.
Exactly. Like she was telling me all that. So yeah, I think it's just very sad in especially in Vancouver, to be honest. Like even I talk to people that have been living here, they're like, yeah, the pity newcomers. You're gonna have to make some very extra effort for you to meet people or for you to make new friends. It's going to be very sad for you. If you move here and you don't know anybody, yeah, it's going to be very sad, especially for someone like me. It's getting better now, but when I first came, it was very hard to find any black person. Like, it was mostly like non-black people. I was like, oh, shoot, what is happening? But yeah, I think it's getting better. More black people are moving here, which is nice. So I think that's also one thing that is very different, which I would fault with Vancouver. It's like, nobody talks to anybody. It's not very communal, which is, I mean, it is what it is. It's a Western culture thing, I guess. Like, everybody's like individualistic, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, exactly.
It is what it is.
So you mentioned about your work culture being fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you maybe touch what makes a great work culture?
Yeah, I think for the most part, one thing is you have to first thing is like, you have to let adults be adults. Right? You don't need to micromanage people, right? Especially when it comes to like managerial thing. You don't need to micromanage people. Obviously, when people are not working very well, you tell them that, oh, you need to improve on this. And if they don't improve, then they have to be let go. Like, but you don't try to micromanage them on a day-to-day basis. I think that's one thing. The second thing I would say is that, at least in Asana, there's this culture of, you can ask any question and nobody's going to fault you for that. Like even most senior, like no matter your seniority level, like people just ask random questions on Slack. It's like, oh, I've forgotten how to do this. It's like, okay. Like, and it's people, nobody's going to like judge you and be like, oh, why don't you know this? There's this like culture of helping one another. You can ask any question. And I think that's very
That's
good.
Awesome.
That's very awesome. Like, so you don't feel like no matter what level you are, you don't feel like you can ask any question. And it's also very interesting because we have like offices around the world. You can message anybody from any office. I'm like, oh, when can you get on a call? I need to discuss this. Like there was a time that I needed to like speak with somebody on a particular, and I was like, okay, when can you get on a call? And just like, I was like, oh, I'm free now. Are you free now? Get on a call, discuss that, get that fixed. Move on with your life, right? And I think that's very good. The fact that you can just talk to anybody at any time, it's very nice. Even like our CEO, sometimes you see him randomly hanging in some Slack thread, just like responding to things. And I also think that people there are genuinely very nice, right? They are not like, it's just very nice people. And the thing is, if you don't enjoy the people, if you dread going to work, because you don't like the people that you're working with, then it's probably a very toxic work culture. But because the people there, like, I don't hate not saying, not because my teammates might watch this anyways, but I don't hate like going to work, not necessarily going to office, like, but like going to like working with the people that I work with, which is like very nice. What other thing? I think there's also this flexibility with how you do things. As long as you get your job done, nobody's gonna like be on your neck, like still pointing to the micromanaging thing that I'm saying. And yeah, I think that's like the work culture. I'm not perturbed every single day that I'm gonna go to work now, my life has ended, that kind of thing. It's like I enjoy the people that I work with, like, and like if you check on Blind or something, everybody, most people, like probably 99, I don't have the data, but probably when it comes to the culture, you will see that everybody's gonna say like, oh, Asana culture is good, right? Which is like very nice, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome that you basically chose maybe a small company rather than choosing Amazon, which is one of the biggest of them all.
Yeah. I mean, Amazon is like the biggest of them all. I mean, I wouldn't say Asana is small. It's more like a medium size. It's not Amazon level, obviously. It's not Google level, but yeah, it's a nice one because I used to work at a startup, so it was a big upgrade to work on a large code base. I think that's a more technical thing, but yeah, that was like a good shift to that.
Yeah, there's a question that naturally arises as well, that you've worked on both startup sectors and kind of medium-sized company sectors, decently big. Yeah. What kind of can you say about like the differences and maybe similarities between the two?
Yeah, I think differences, one that just pops up is that there is a standard of doing things, right? If you're working at a startup, you just like building, you have to get your MVP out, or you have to like, you're just building something, like you're creating the culture, you're creating whatever is going to happen. So there's nothing anywhere. You are like creating the something, right? There's nothing anywhere. But for a company that has been for like 10 plus years, there is like documentation, there is like a way of doing things. There's this general thing that people say, the Asana way, like there's a way you write React code, there's a way you do things, there's like a process for doing things, like, so you want to make a change. So when I was working at a startup, you make a change to anything, you just push it, like you just push it, like there's CI/CD, but like nobody's generally gonna review thoroughly or doing, like you just push whatever you have and then it goes into prod. But it's not like that. Like, yeah, it's like which is also one thing, is like you have to be meticulous with doing things. It's one thing that I had to adjust when I moved, because in startup you write code, you push code, you don't have to be like perfect. But when you have like customers that are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for your software, you have to make sure that what you're pushing out is 100 of 100. Like you review it, like, and make sure that you're pushing the right thing. You make sure that nothing breaks. Like you make sure that you cover all the edge cases. And also because it's a very huge product, right? You have to think of different things that can go wrong, right? So even if you're changing just the banner or just the top bar, you have to think about where's this top bar rendered? Like, how is this going to affect image upload? How is this going to affect every other thing, right? So it's a huge product. It's like hundreds of thousands of lines of code. So you have to see like what is going to go wrong if I change something. I think that's also something that is different. What else? Like I said, there's like a standard and way of doing things. Similarity, I mean, we use similar technologies, more or less. Like the last startup that I was working, we're using Next.js, which is like a server-side rendered framework for React. But yeah, we use React as Asana flavor, more or less, but it's still like mostly React. It's okay, but it's not Next.js that I was coding in for like the longest time, I guess. So what else is similar? Not so much, to be honest. It's like, it's a very different ball game entirely, to be honest. It's a very different ball game, I would say. Yeah.
What current trends in the tech industry do you find most intriguing or impactful?
I mean, let's do impactful, because I feel the answer seems obvious. AI. Yeah, I think AI has been like very impactful. If you checked how much progress we've made in just like 1 year. To be honest, it's crazy, right? It's just crazy the way it affects how we do things. It's changing, right? It's now you create videos, tools on like AI tools, like you upload the videos and then it's going to generate shots from the videos, right? I'm also like hosting this podcast with my friend, and then we record whatever I want to record, and then it does all the like a little bit of the editing, cut out some parts, generate shots that we can post, transcript, all those things, and it's just very wonderful. It affects everything, like how we ask questions, like how we study. Like I wish we had ChatGPT when I was in school, because you just like search for something and then it generates. Students don't do anything nowadays. Like now it has also changed, and I think it's also going to change how, it's already changing it, like how relationships happen nowadays. Although it's a sad thing, it's a sign of how sad life is now. People now just chat with ChatGPT as if they are chatting with a girlfriend or something, like legit, right? It's crazy. Now that it even has audio, right? They can change it like a female's voice if you're a guy, or a male's voice, and say, talk to me like you're my boyfriend or something, and then you're like, oh, hello baby, like legit. Like if there are videos of that on Instagram.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. So it's changing our life is in general. It's affecting different things now. If we go to health, I just saw this tweet from Elon Musk, which probably Wired or like one tech blog was like, oh, don't put your health scans on Grok, which is like Twitter's AI tool. But it's like now you can upload a brain scan to like ChatGPT or something and say, oh, do you think I have a tumor or something like that? And it's going to analyze that, right? I'm like, oh, based on the pattern that I have of these, oh, I think you might have a brain tumor. I think you might do this. Like, so we're using that in health. We're using that in different fields, to be honest. And there's a talk of that about how good will it get, but right now it's very good. We have video generation tools like that. If you check like Sora.ai, like it's like by OpenAPI, their video generation tools. You like generate, like now it's very interesting that I don't know if you saw that thing. There's this meme of a guy holding a girl and then looking back at another girl.
I've seen that, yeah.
So somebody uploaded it to Sora and they were like, oh, turn it into a video or something like that. And then he turned into a video and then the guy was looking and then the girl beat it, and it's all AI. And it's very interesting because it also comes into things like, oh, deep fake and all those kind of things. And another, like, which is also the bad side, impacts on the bad side. It's like nowadays, people like us that record videos online, someone can take all our videos, put it inside the model, and create a clone of our voice, right? And then they get a phone number or something, and then they call you. Like somebody can clone, say, your brother's or your sibling's voice, and then they call you, and then you hear your sibling's voice, like, hello, I'm currently stranded now. Can you send me like $500? And you're like, okay, because it's the person's voice, right? They can also like do something and it's going to show that it's their phone number, right? And you think you're talking to your sibling, but it's not your sibling. And you send him money, or you text them like, oh yeah, I just sent him like, what money? I didn't ask you for any money.
I've seen that. It's crazy.
It's crazy. So it's going to like help scammers more, right? But now there are like AI tools that is going to like detect scam, right? Exactly. We're creating problems and also trying to solve problems, which is like, it is what it is, to be honest. But so I would say AI is probably something that I find very interesting, not necessarily because everybody's talking about it. I don't think it's going to make us lose our jobs, at least not yet. I try to use AI as a software engineer. It's like an intern that you have to monitor every time. It generates code. You think it looks good, but it's like a very bad code. Like you can't put that in prod. So it is what it is. I was still last thing I'm going to say about AI is like, or at least for now, I was still like at an event, or I see that there's an AI tool where you upload a mock design, or you can even, so what happens is that you type something and say, oh, generate a design for a startup that I have, say you have a startup and you're like, oh, my startup creates the best thing in the world, generates a design for that, and then it's going to generate multiple design files for your startup, like basically MVP, and then you can take those designs, put it into another AI tool, and say generate the code for me, and then it's going to generate a code for you that works, that you can deploy. And it's just very interesting. So we'll see where that goes. But
yeah, it's very interesting to see how this unfolds in like the next couple of years.
yeah, it is. And also because of the rate at which AI is going, it might, I don't know if it has peaked, but there's this like, it's still like, it's just 1 year ago, the first ChatGPT was whack. Like, now it's just crazy. The things I generate.
No, I think it's not even the peak. I think it's going to keep going up for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, I mean, there's this old debate about, do we need more computing power or do we need more data to pass into it? And there's also this problem of like, now we're having content generated by AI online that are not necessarily true or the right content, and then use those bad data to train the model, because basically what all these companies do is scrape all our data online, like whatever is online, and then you scrape that, but there's also bad info, right? So do we need more data to make those things better, or do we need more compute power? Because if you check GPT-4o, the amount of data that is used is crazy. Like, it's billions of, like, it's crazy. So
I saw a crazy fact that I think the new GPT model reads 80,000 books a week.
It's just crazy. Yeah, so it's a lot of data, but I guess at what point does more information not help again?
Exactly. There will be a threshold that comes, and I definitely agree with that. And they're trying to now create like synthetic data that kind of mimics the real world data, and there's difficulties. But in this talk, you mentioned Elon Musk a little bit. So let's touch on that.
Okay.
What do you think about Elon Musk and Grok in general? I think you had negative kind of, but let's hear it.
Elon Musk is a touchy subject. Grok is obviously not the top on the AI list. Even Gemini is probably better than Grok. Gemini is the one by Google, which is also terrible anyways. Maybe it's gotten better now, but when I was testing it, I was going to like record a video of like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, and all those kind of things. So Gemini is like, so I would say GPT, like OpenAI's GPT, Claude, Anthropic, Claude, maybe Gemini, but Grok is probably not even close to the top of the list. But I will say that I'm an Elon Musk fan, so which should say something that I'm actually not just bashing Grok because I don't like Elon Musk. I love Elon Musk. Like,
let's go. Same.
4 years ago, I used to like watch a lot of like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I used to watch a lot of documentaries on the space, on all his space exploits, his Boring Company. I don't know if you know the Boring Company.
Yeah, the tunnel.
Like, yeah, the tunnel and it's like
Neuralink.
Yeah, so I think he's a guy that he has the money, which is another subject entirely, whether one person should have that much money. Like,
I don't think so.
Yeah. But that's another subject entirely. But I mean, is building things. Some people would also say, oh, but he's not the one building it, but at the end, he's the one coordinating that and is the face of the company. He's also a very smart guy, to be honest. So he's building something, he's making so many innovations, and I think that's very impressive. He's someone, I mean, he also has his own, and I also like him because in some sense he's like, he doesn't care, right? A lot of billionaires care too much. He doesn't care at all. I think there's a balance that people need to get to, but the fact that you are a public figure and you can still say whatever you want, right? It's not so much about that I agree with everything that he says, but it's the fact that he gets to say whatever he wants, which I think is very, like, people should say whatever they want. That's another subject entirely also, which we will not get into, but yeah.
What do you see are the biggest challenges facing the tech industry today?
I mean, I think one thing recently was the old layoffs, which is a big challenge, I would say. a lot of people were losing their jobs. A lot of companies were firing people, which is also very interesting. Since we just finished talking about Elon Musk, was that he started this whole spree of like layoffs.
Yeah, with Twitter.
Yeah. So he laid off people, and then everybody was like, "F Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a bad guy. And then like 1 month after, every other person started laying people off, and nobody was saying anything. And it's like, okay.
They just love bashing on him. I don't know why.
I don't know why. I mean, because I think people sometimes hate on people that can do things that they can't do sometimes. I'm not saying that's what is happening with Elon Musk, but like...
Potentially.
And also, there's also this whole thing now, which is why a lot of people are bashing him more, because he's more right-wing now. Like politically, which is also another discussion entirely. I have a lot of opinion about, but this is not the...
I think I have a question on.
Okay.
So you were basically summing up like the biggest challenge, like laying off, and I definitely agree. And I think with AI improving, that would maybe increase even more. So we're gonna have to watch and see what happens. Truly.
I mean, Nvidia's CEO was like, "Oh, software engineers, they're not gonna be software engineers in like 5 years." I'm like, okay, that's probably not going to happen, for at least for the most part. In some sense, I agree with. So there's this thing that my CEO used to say, like Dustin, is like, AI is probably not going to take your job, but someone, or maybe he was not the one that said it, but someone using AI is going to take your job, right? It's like when Industrial Revolution, right? Like we still had farmers, but farmers that were using tractors and trucks were doing better than those that did not, that were using hoes and cutlasses and not using that. And it's probably going to be a similar thing with AI. And then there was also something, it's also that AI can create more jobs, right? Which is because it's going to make doing things faster, maybe. And then it's going to let people create more things, right? And then probably that's going to create more jobs. Who knows?
Oh yeah, well,
I mean, what I say when it comes to that discussion is like, everybody at this point is just speculating.
Exactly.
There are people that are on the hopeful side because they don't want to lose their job, and they're like, oh, AI is not going to take their job. And there are also people that are doing it for the marketing side, which I think the Nvidia CEO is doing it just because he's trying to create AI chips for the most part, right? He's just doing for marketing and create hype around AI. And those are people that are going to say like, AI is going to like make you lose your job and those kind of things, because they want people it wants Nvidia stock to go up, that kind of thing. So I think there are like those two extremes. For most I'm like, we'll see how that goes.
So with the new election in the United States, what do you think the impact is in the industry or even in your life?
I mean, in my life, probably the only thing that I need to worry about now is the 25% tariff that Trump wants to put on Canada, right?
Yeah, they don't have a good relationship.
I mean, it's not. First, I don't think Trump likes Justin, like the Prime
get
Minister.
why.
Also, it's like they're on different political like spectrum. Like the Liberals is like the left-leaning party, and then Republican Party is like the right.
Correct. Yeah, that's why they clash. That's
right. So that's probably where they clash. So people are hopeful that, I don't know, if Pierre Poilievre get elected, or like if the Conservative Party, I can't vote, so I don't have an opinion, to be honest, but based on things that I see online, people are hoping that maybe they can work something out. Maybe they can work something out. Who knows? But for now, that's probably one thing that's going to affect me so much, because if that tariff gets implemented, it's going to probably make the prices of things increase. The only economics that I did was in secondary school, by the way. So I'm not an economist, but I'm just saying that's probably going to affect the prices of things. And also because like most of the things that we export from Canada goes to the States, right? Like, I don't know the date, but probably like up to almost 90% of the thing.
Crazy,
it's a crazy
actually.
amount like, of our export goes to the States. So if you put that tariff, it's going to obviously affect the economy, and we import a lot of things. It's going to like affect a lot of things. So
do you know when that tariff is going into action?
I mean, Trump has said it, and until he comes in, which is going to get sworn in like January 15 or something.
Yeah.
So until he gets in, but until that point, who knows? And who knows whether he's not going to implement it and he's just saying he's going to implement it. But he's probably obviously going to implement it against China anyways. But Canada, we are neighbors. Come on.
I don't get it.
I mean, I get it because Trump is trying to be a nationalist, right? At least that's the way I see it. He's trying to say America first, right? Anything that does not benefit America.
Yeah, I guess.
Which I totally understand. It's like, hopefully. But there's also like relationship with other countries, right? There's that foreign policy and how that works. If they are your allies, there's how that thing works and all those kind of things, right? So, I mean, I don't know.
We'll watch and see.
Watch and see how that goes. But yeah, it's a lot of speculations and it's a lot of what ifs. But I think the Canadian government, so like I said, I can't vote, but they need to start like thinking about what if that gets implemented, how are they going to make sure that Canadians can still live good and have a better lifestyle? And yeah, I think that's mostly that. And just try to work together. It's like just work together for God's sake. But we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. How do you stay updated with the rapidly changing tech landscape?
Newsletters. Yeah. But yeah, it's actually like mostly newsletters. So I get like newsletters every morning from different like platforms.
Can you talk about maybe your favorite ones?
So I think there is like Medium, obviously, which aggregates posts from Medium that people post and then they send that to me. There's also like some more niched software engineering news. I mean, we're talking about tech, so obviously, yeah, what am I talking about? So there is this like, I'm gonna have to check my phone to remember some of them, but it's like
we'll put them down in the description.
We'll send them and then we'll put them. But yeah, I get updated from those, mostly newsletters, but also I watch lots of YouTube videos. So you see tech videos, like I see a lot of that and I try to watch a lot of that.
Any notable channels?
We'll put it on that.
We'll put that.
Yeah, so I probably can't remember all of them. But yeah, I would try to send the link and then we'll put them on there. But also I try the technologies that I use, I subscribe to the newsletter for them, right? React or TypeScript. Like I just got one like TypeScript 5.6 or something just came out like some days ago. So I get newsletters on those and then you go read that, see what has changed, that kind of thing. So that's how you stay updated. If you're using a particular technology, you probably want to subscribe to the newsletter for that, so that if anything changes, which is because that's going to directly affect your workflow, right? So you probably want to subscribe to that. But also sometimes just randomly saying things. I don't really use Twitter, but sometimes when I don't have the application, but sometimes when I browse and I see Twitter, it's like some random things. And also just Instagram around.
What's your favorite social media platform?
Instagram, right? I think it's probably Instagram because it's nice, I guess.
Yeah, it's the cleanest. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's the cleanest. It gets the job done, I guess. It feels more personal also. Like there's this like balance between having something personal, like you can see people's. It's just cleaner. I've not been able to use TikTok. I mean, me and my friends still like send TikToks to ourselves, and that's probably. And sometimes I just like want to scroll, but it's just not the best. Twitter, I used to use a lot of Twitter, but it was just like Twitter. I also like. Twitter is way more toxic.
Of that.
Yeah, it is.
So can you maybe touch on why is that? Like the people go there, like they just keep fighting with each other. How does the community work that this platform just gets more toxic than the other ones?
To be honest, I really, number one is like it's text based. So Instagram is like images. Like you hardly see anybody reading the caption of whatever you post on Instagram, right? And except there are like some very spicy videos that the first thing you do, even before checking the video, is to go check the comments, right? So apart from that, a lot of people don't necessarily go check comments on Instagram. So people just watch. It's more like you're receiving. But on Twitter, it's like everybody is just, I don't know why. It's maybe like a spirit comes upon people. It's like, so you go to Instagram, you're happy, and then you go to Instagram, and then that evil spirit comes on you and you're like, yes, time to start abusing people. I don't know. I just don't know. Like it's just very toxic to me. I don't know why, but people are just like all about their like just abusing. I mean, I tried Threads, the new one, like the Twitter competitor by Facebook. It's a little bit more positive. It's a lot of like, maybe because it's new. I just don't know. But like Twitter is just toxic.
I have a thing that I think with Elon Musk having like X.com, Twitter,
Yeah.
he just doesn't like monitor as much or like try to filter stuff out. But
Yeah.
with Threads, I think they filter some like keywords and like they do like some classification and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think before even Elon took over, while Jack Dorsey was still like CEO, Twitter was still like very toxic. Like,
Oh, it's just the bare bone then.
yeah, so it's like it's just the culture of Twitter to just be toxic. It's that thing built. I don't know what that thing is. It's just built into it for people to just go after someone else and just like start dragging them. It's Twitter that you find someone getting cancelled mostly. To be honest, I don't know. It's just what it is. To be honest.
It is what it is. What core values guide your decisions and actions in both your professional and personal life?
That's a very I know you just sent me this question before now, but that's core values. I think one thing that I was still telling someone earlier today is I try to be true to myself. I try not to lie to myself and even to others, which used to put me in a lot of troubles some years ago, because I'm just like, I'm gonna give you straight, but now I just don't talk. Like if instead of lying, I would rather just not talk, which is also another problem. It's like, yeah, but I try to be, at least to myself, I try to be true to myself. I like to think of myself as a realist, right? So I'm realistic with what I can do and what I can't do. That helps you to like seek help whenever you want to seek help, and it also just helps you to like go learn something. Like there's no point in lying to yourself, right? So I think that's one thing. Also, at least the way that I'm thinking about the question is I also like to think that I am very driven and focused, which I think is one of the things that has gotten me to where I am now. If I want to do something, I go after it, like, and I try to do that. So being driven, like being focused, being resilient, I think it's something. I don't know if that answers the question, but like core values is try not to lie to yourself, like to be. I don't know if there's another way to phrase the question in case I didn't answer it like very well or something.
No, that's a great one. That's a great core value that you mentioned. It should be more awareness around it.
Yeah, and I think it's just also like very nice to, which is also one thing that I like to think, and people that know me say that is, I'm like also very disciplined. That I think a lot of those things guide me along the way, and they are very helpful, and I think they've helped me so far.
You're here, bro.
Yeah,
Doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Like, to be honest, so yeah, those are like the values that. I think the way that I'm thinking about that is like, if you ask someone that knows me that describe Israel in 3 values or 3 words, like, oh, is disciplined, is resilient, is probably like he has integrity, truthful, and one other thing is probably like, oh, is also like very helpful, right? I like to think of myself as a very good friend. Like if I'm your friend, then I am your friend, because I like to be helpful, right? So if I'm lying, comment. But yeah, I think that's mostly how people would describe me. So which is how I think about the question. Yeah.
What motivates you?
Interesting. What motivates me? I mean, I think having just the life that I want to live motivates me, right? I wake up, I'm like, oh, what kind of life do I want to live? And also one thing that really motivates me is the future. And I will explain what I mean by that. I tell my friend, and my friend was still like saying on the group chat, like he still sent like a screenshot of them. It was like, much things can change in a year. For me, it's like much things can change in 5 years, right? So I look at myself, I'm like, 5 years ago, where was I? I was like somewhere. Like 5 years ago was 2019. Damn, and I'm like, okay, 5 years from now, where will I be? And when I think about how much progress that I've made in 5 years, it gives me hope for how much progress I can make in the next 5 years, right? So I look at my Instagram or like my YouTube channel or something. Like at the beginning of this year, YouTube was like 500 subs. like 500 subs. Now I'm at 12K, right? Right?
You gotta tell me your secrets.
Yeah. And like Instagram, I was like 200 or something, like 6K. And I'm like, if I continue to add values and create this thing, where will I be in 5 years? Because I think usually sometimes people see people that have made it, like you see Ali or you see MKBHD, and you're like, oh, he's doing very well. He's talking to this CEO today. He's talking to that CEO tomorrow, that kind of thing. Go check MKBHD video, his first video. It was like when he was 12 or something. He has been doing this thing for 10 years plus. And you want to start creating content today, and you think you're going to make it like in 1 year, right? So for me, what motivates me is the vision of what the future is going to be like, right? So I'm like, if I continue along this path, if I continue to do this, I'm actually going to be what I want to be, right? I'm like, by the time I'm 30 or something, what would I have achieved by that time? Because sometimes you look at some of these people, but you check their age, you're like, oh, this person is 30 and they started, or let's say the person is like 26 or something, and they started this thing when they were 16. You're like, when did you start this thing that you're doing? Like, so for me, it's like, even though I'm not where I want to be, but I'm like, if I keep on doing this thing, I'm going to be where I want to be. So what motivates me, summarily, is the hope for the future and the fact that if I continue along this path, I'm going to get what I want to get, right? Just by doing that. I'm not trying to be Aguirre to Maguire, like, but really, that's really what motivates me. And also just, like I said, having the life that I want to live, being able to do what I want to do is also one of the things that motivates me. But from where I'm from is like, I know where I'm from, right? So being able to achieve that life motivates me, yeah.
What challenges you?
Do I even understand that question? I think myself, like, to be honest, I like to think that I challenge myself, right? Which I don't know how that works, but I set very high goals for myself. And so it used to affect my relationships with other people because I have a very high standard for myself. There was this English word that just went out of my, but I have like very high expectation of myself. And sometimes, previously, I used to put that expectation on other people, and it's like, have something for your life. Like, it's like, I have high expectation, but now I'm like, yeah, not everybody wants to be you.
I've struggled from that too, actually.
But is this still something you're working on? Or like, how do you deal with that?
It's still something that working on, but it's dimmer, obviously, but it is something that's not fully solved.
Yeah. So how are you currently like trying to solve that now?
Well, I'm just same thing that you said. I'm just saying that not everyone thinks like me and not everyone wants to be where I want to be. So that's that. Just let them be, you know? I can like so much motivate them, but you can't really set those high expectations.
Yeah. And I think it's also that what you think of for yourself as peak is not somebody else's peak, right? So for example, I have friends that what they find the most fulfilling is being, I'm going to say, give this preamble in case it sounds like I'm bashing this profession. Like 3 of my family members, my mom is a teacher, my sisters like were teaching, like one of my sisters like did education, my dad used to be a teacher, that kind of thing. So I'm from a family of like teachers, so I'm not bashing that. In some sense I'm also a teacher, but for somebody, it's like, for some of my friends, what they find joy is, and the height of their fulfillment is being in one school in Nigeria somewhere, just teaching some kids, and they're happy, right? And for me, it's like I don't want to be that, right? But that's okay. And that's one thing that I've learned to, I used to see all those, and I'm like, do something with your life. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not achieving anything with your life. But I've just come to realize that is actually also okay. Like, the fact that somebody just wants to marry, have 2 kids, be somewhere, I'm going to mention a place that I don't know, but it's like my hometown, live a quiet life in Ogbomoso, Oyo State, Nigeria, and just be there and not worry about anything, that's good for them. They don't worry about posting on YouTube, getting known, speaking at conferences. They don't want all those, and they are happy. And I think I've just come to realize that that's also okay. If that's what they find joy in, and that's what they want, that's also okay, right? And if for me, I'm like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be that, that's also okay, right? I'm not an overachiever, and they are not an underachiever, because there's probably somewhere that wants to do more than I am doing, and is looking at what I'm doing and is like, this guy doesn't have.
There's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, there's always someone bigger that is trying to build something, right? Somebody's like, oh, I want to build the next Twitter. I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to. And you're like, you're wasting.
I just want to make videos.
Yeah, you're like, you're wasting away your life, that kind of thing. So I think if people want to do something and that's what they find joy in, good for them. But for me, it's like, I have something that I want to do, and I challenge myself daily to do that. I also think like my friends also like challenge me, because we have this big aspiration and we're always talking about those things, right? And we're like, oh, let's do that. We want to do this. We want to start this. We want to contribute to this. We want to build this. We want to give back to this community. We want to do all this. And it seemed very big based on where we are now, right? But we're like, I mean, one of the big dreams that we had, like, we didn't have any money. Like, now I still have a little bit of money, yeah, but like then we didn't have, there was no hope for anything. Like, but we're like, oh, we're gonna start an art school back in Nigeria. Instead of like a regular school, it was gonna be an art school where people come, you study music, you study art, and it was gonna be like it was gonna be like a low fund school where the school fees is not much, and it's just gonna be a way of like making sure that art and people like just grow in art, and we bring art back, all those kind of things. And now, even now, that dream still seems like a very huge thing, like building an old school and all those kind of things. But we still have those, and
dream big.
Yeah, we still dream big. Some of those things are like, okay, let's dream and see how, and we try to go and try to do that. So yeah, my friends also, like, we challenge each other. We achieve one goal and we're like, what's the next thing? Right? And I think that's good. So I challenge myself, and my friends also challenge me.
And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
What does that question mean?
I don't know. It's different. I love to end the podcast with this question, because for everyone, I don't know, what's the meaning of us being on this rocky planet? It seems like an endless void of nothingness or dark energy / dark matter.
Yeah, putting it like that. So I'm a Christian. So I like to think that the meaning of life is found in God, right? And the fact that He created us to worship Him, and because He wants to share His love with us, right? Is why He created us. So I think the meaning of life is to live as much as you can to please Him, right? So it sounds not impressive, but I think that it's just like live as much as possible to please Him.
Israel, it was fantastic speaking to you.
Thank you very much.
And I wish you all the best in endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching.
All right, yeah.
We'll see you next time.